They took the answer out in its entirety, and they put a completely different answer in that makes her look like she's normal, okay, which is about the best you're going to do. And I said, I think it's the worst thing she's done. Now, what we're doing is we're going to subpoena their records because we want to see how much else did she do. I think it's the biggest scandal I've ever seen for a broadcaster. In 60 Minutes, no, I think 60 Minutes, I think it should be taken off the air, frankly.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting about that, of course, and of course we all know this. As John Hyland always says, what is said is either confession or projection. CBS News did that during their interview with him, where they, you know, he actually told them, oh, you leave that part out. Leave this part out. Leave that part out. You don't have to put that part in. So, and they followed his orders.
That was President Trump back in 2024 launching what would become a long-running attack on 60 Minutes and CBS News. Trump went on to sue the network and its parent company, Paramount, for $20 billion. Since then, CBS has undergone some notable shifts in its coverage.
That's a polite way to put it.
Yeah, which seemed to coincide with corporate efforts to seal massive business deals. Joining us now, investigative reporter for the New York Times, Michael Schmidt, who's been following this topic. And Michael, 60 Minutes, obviously, has long had the reputation of being the pillar of investigative journalism. What's happening?
Look, I've covered the issue of retribution, and the other side of retribution, the other side of the coin, is capitulation. And when my colleague Jim Rutenberg and I looked at what was going on in the country as Trump has, finished his first year here, there was no more dramatic example of what capitulation looks like and has played out than at 60 Minutes and at CBS. As part of the unwinding of CBS and the sale of CBS, the network and the company that was buying it, the Ellison family, agreed to a series of measures that the Trump FCC wanted them to take on. Not only was this lawsuit that Trump filed against 60 Minutes settled, but the network agreed to take on an ombudsman. They agreed to take on a pledge of being unbiased. And they moved forward and installed a new head of the network. And since then, a lot of what they have done has come under scrutiny. And the larger point that we were trying to make in this piece that we did on this is that one of the reasons that people say, that you shouldn't do a deal with Donald Trump in the way that CBS did.
Mike, can I ask you, Mike, can I ask you really quickly? Just give some specific instances. We all know what they are, but give specific instances to viewers who may not have been following it as closely. Some of the, let's just say, interesting things that have happened at CBS over the past month.
So they abruptly held a piece that was coming out about El Salvador and the way that the administration had sent people there and what the conditions were there. Maybe they held that piece based on the merits. Maybe their decision was to do that. But the larger issue there is that when you make a deal with Trump, everything that you do after that has to be looked at through that lens, and it casts a shadow over it. So why was it that they held this piece? Did they hold this piece because the administration asked them to do it, or did they do it based on the merits? They have completely revamped the way that they've done the evening news. Have they done that because they think there's an opportunity there to reach people in a new and different way, or are they doing that to bend the network in a direction that Donald Trump or his allies want them to? It's examples like that, when a network takes decisions like that, that you have to go back and look and say, okay, why are they doing this? Are they doing this because they think simply this is the best editorial decisions they can make? Or are they doing this because they're under pressure from the Trump administration?
Well, I mean, Willie, you look at, even coverage on January 6th, the moral equivalency in the evening news broadcast. It was shocking. It really was shocking that they would do that. You look at some of the other reporting. You look at a glossy, basically, campaign commercial for Marco Rubio at the end of one newscast. You look at them saying, "Oh, we're not going to rely on experts anymore. We're not going to rely on academics or experts anymore." I mean, okay. And so many decisions, yes, you have to look through the lens of this deal they made with Donald Trump, but you don't have to even look through the lens. You can look at this regardless of who's president. You say, "What? Why the hell are they doing all of this?" It's really, it's talk about bias. It's biased in the direction of the White House every time. Even when they finally play this clip, they make sure this report, they make sure they play it up against an NFL playoff game, and everybody knows that buries it. That means nobody's watching it.
And the other way would have been coming out of an NFL playoff game if they'd run it when they had
Exactly.
planned to, where you get the biggest possible audience. I think, to Mike's point, everyone wants the news to be even-handed, and if you can reach a new audience and talk to different viewers and go out and speak to different voters, that's welcome. But this feels, Mike, to a lot of people like an overcorrection when you're running tributes to Marco Rubio at the end of your newscast, or saying, well, the White House put up a new website about January 6th. The White House says this. Democrats say this. There are some truths that you can tell, even if you think it might upset some of your new viewers. So how is this all playing internally at CBS News? We know about the business relationship, that they do feel pressure from the administration. But what about the journalists inside CBS?
There seems to be some real significant distance between Barry Weiss, who was brought in to lead the network, and the rank and file reporters that are there. And look, the media has come under an enormous amount of pressure over the past couple of decades for a range of different reasons. I had thought that 60 Minutes had held up as well as any media institution in the country. As a journalist, as an investigative reporter, I always looked at 60 Minutes and thought, like, that's the gold standard. Those are the people that are the best at what they do. Those are the people that you trust the most. And what happens is that when 60 Minutes feels the crosswinds of the company that it's doing, settling a lawsuit with Donald Trump that no true legal expert, to quote experts, would say has any merit to it, in order to close a deal on a sale of a network, everything else that show does, you have to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, why are they doing that? Are they doing that because those are the best investigative reporters in the country who really know how to get the story? Or are there other pressures on them to do that? And fortunately or unfortunately, in the media, a lot of what we do is based on perception. It's based on, okay, like, are you perceived as someone who operates in good faith? Are you perceived as someone who is following the facts, who is trying to be fair? And when you have the perception that Donald Trump's, is putting pressure on this network, and that the network is responding in the ways that, Joe and you just laid out, you can't help but say, all right, well, what's really going on here? And look, I always look to 60 Minutes as like the top of what they did. But if you're there now and you're a journalist, and there's been reporting on this, you can't look at this and say, oh, this is great. This is the way this is supposed to be done.
All right. Investigative reporter at the New York Times, Michael Schmidt. Thank you very much for coming on this morning.